It wears you down, but also you can build connections with people who are kind of feeling that same way.
Right now, Madison teachers say change is needed in the wake of the Abundant Life Christian School shooting, what some are proposing.
Plus, Israel and Hamas have agreed to a ceasefire and a hostage deal in Gaza. We have local reaction.
And later, if you're planning to travel by air this summer, you'll need to update to a real ID, why the TSA is urging you to do it sooner rather than later. And we welcome you to News 3 Now at 6. Well, good evening. I'm Eric Franke.
And I'm Sarah Carlson.
Tomorrow marks 1 month already since the Abundant Life shooting that killed a student and a teacher.
Our Ellie LaLiberte shows us the conversations teachers across Madison are having following the tragedy.
Even though we're a city of almost 300,000 people, we're still very much operating like a very small community.
Michael Jones is the president of Madison Teachers Incorporated.
I think an injury to one is an injury to all.
He sees how the ALCS shooting is impacting educators across Madison.
Just feeling like we missed something, in terms of avoiding that tragedy.
Now he sees need for change.
We're going to have to really push for some serious, not just local community solutions, but some state and federal solutions to have better systems so that people's needs can be met, so we're not just waiting or reacting to the next terrible shooting or tragedy.
He says to prevent violence in schools, change needs to come in multiple different forms, like policy reform and support for mental health programs.
Our union has been certainly sounding the alarm on these school safety issues for quite a long time.
The statewide teachers union president, Peggy Wartz-Olson, agrees, saying teachers should be heard.
Educators need to be at the table as part of the solutions in these conversations because they are deeply impacted and they're responsible for classrooms of students all across the state.
And that's where our kind of advocacy is going into, is like, make sure you're taking care of yourself.
Putting mental health at the forefront.
It wears you down, but also you can build connections with people who are kind of feeling that same way.
Reporting in Madison, Ellie LaLiberte, News 3 Now.
Thank you, Ellie. If you'd like to help those impacted by the ALCS shooting, you can text HELP for ALCS to 40403. This takes you to donate to the United Way of Dane County's fund.
A man is hurt after a shooting on Madison's east side. This was on Windstone Drive, and police say it happened last Friday night at about 8:30. Officers responded to an apartment building, and there they found an 18-year-old man with a gunshot wound to the leg. 2 juvenile family members were home at the time. Now, police say they think this shooting was likely accidental. A canine unit searched near the apartment but never found a weapon. That incident remains under investigation.
A new report is showing how many firearms were brought in and recovered at several different Wisconsin airports. At Mitchell International in Milwaukee, 16 guns were recovered at security checkpoints last year. That's down from 19 in 2023. Meanwhile, 6 guns were recovered at Dane County Regional Airport. That's an increase from 4 in 23. People who bring firearms to a security checkpoint can be fined up to $15,000. However, passengers are allowed to travel with firearms in checked baggage. Those have to be unloaded, packed separately from ammunition in a locked hardback case, and declared at the airline check-in counter. After more than a year, Israel and Hamas have reached a deal to end the war in Gaza.
And as reactions pour in from around the world, our Jalen Banks is talking to one UW-Madison student who was involved in the pro-Palestine protests on campus last year. Jalen, what have you heard?
As you'd imagine, a year-plus-long war that has impacted thousands brings up many emotions. And speaking with one UW-Madison student, they say those emotions are what they're trying to sort through as the ceasefire deal is finally here. We saw protesters far and wide during the course of the Israel-Hamas war. Those protests reached UW-Madison last May during a stretch of nationwide campus protest. I was able to speak with one of the participants of the protests on UW's campus, Dalia Saba.
I think that the student uprisings and broadly speaking, the popular uprisings around the world against Israel's genocide in Gaza have led us to this point because simply if there were no backlash, there would be nothing to stop the Israeli government.
Saba shares with me she has family who were displaced by the war. And at this time, there are just a lot of emotions to sort through.
Where so many people have been displaced, my own family was forced to evacuate. And they were lucky to evacuate, but their homes were destroyed. While we can celebrate the fact that a ceasefire would mean no more people would be killed in theory. In practice, that might look different.
According to the UN, nearly all Gazans have been displaced since the start of the war. The deal, which will move forward in 2 phases, releasing dozens of hostages taken during the October 7th attack. For now, reporting in Madison, Jalen Banks, News 3 Now.
Jalen, thank you. Now, President Biden says given the timing of this deal, the incoming Trump administration will be responsible for implementing it.
The Leinenkugel family is trying to buy one of its breweries back in Chippewa Falls. Coors, which makes Leinenkugel beer there, is looking to close the facility, however. The Leinenkugels released a statement reading in part, "The Chippewa Falls Brewery is more than a facility. It is a symbol of our legacy, a source of pride for the community, and a key part of what makes Leinenkugels unique. The brewery has operated up in Chippewa Falls for more than 150 years and is set to close Friday. Coors is not showing interest in selling it back. 56 people will lose their jobs."
The Wisconsin Department of Transportation will declare all highways across the state officially frozen effective tomorrow. Now, that means Wisconsin's frozen roads law will be in effect statewide, and that law allows heavier loads for trucks hauling cross-cut logs as well as salt and sand for winter maintenance. According to the DOT, the seasonal weight restrictions help protect the state's roads. A brief warm-up to end the work week, but then the temperatures take another polar plunge. Here's Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington braving the elements on the patio, Alex.
Yeah, and the winds are really picking up out here, Eric, too, out ahead of a clipper system just before the warm and just before the polar plunge. These winds associated with that clipper system bringing a couple of flurries to the northwest part of Dane County out towards Cross Plains and Mount Horeb, but you go off to the west to Richland County, stretching just down to near Richland Center. Let's say right down the Wisconsin River Valley over towards Muscoda and Boscobel, a brief period of snow, and that is going to move across the rest of southern Wisconsin quickly this evening, bringing anywhere from a dusting to maybe an inch of light snow. A couple of slick spots are not out of the question overnight. The good news is this will clear out of here as we go into the overnight hours, so not expecting impacts on the Thursday morning commute. And we see that here as we plan the next few hours here, that light snow breaking out 8, 9 o'clock, maybe lasting to 10 o'clock in Dane County. Temperature is staying in the 20s, but with that wind out there that's starting to ramp up with this clipper-like system, not very pleasant. And temperatures actually rise overnight. As you were saying, that warm-up is on the way. How warm are we going to go with our temperatures? And what's the very latest on those wind chills that you can expect in your neighborhood with alert day conditions that are expected as early as Sunday?
All right, thank you, Alex. Now, if you're looking to find a place to eat out, we have some good news. Madison Magazine's Winter Restaurant Week kicks off this Sunday. It is this week on News 3 this morning. We'll be giving away what we're calling Restaurant Bucks, and you can win a pair of Restaurant Week Bucks valued at $60 to use at one of 40 participating restaurants. Enter to win by heading to channel3000.com/entertainment/contests.
And still ahead at 6, Wisconsin DHS starting a new campaign targeted at menthol tobacco products.
Plus, a recent report sets new recommendations on how to measure obesity. We're back with those changes after a short break.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
The Wisconsin Department of Health Services is launching a campaign highlighting health risks associated with menthol tobacco products. The digital marketing campaign is a part of DHS's public awareness efforts that provide facts and treatment resources to youth, parents, and adults about the health impacts of tobacco and nicotine across all ages. Now, the Wisconsin Tobacco Quit Line provides support for people who are interested in learning about reducing or quitting tobacco. That number right there on your screen, 800-784-8669, or you can visit the Wisconsin Quit Line website.
There are new recommendations to measure obesity, and it may be welcome news for some people previously classified as obese. A report published in the journal Lancet Diabetes Endocrinology focuses more on body fat and medical issues. This is instead of just using BMI, or body mass index, which links a person's weight to their height. Doctors instead would look more closely into how a patient's organs are working before diagnosis.
What we're trying to do is use still the BMI as a first pass screening tool, but then really drill down on who is at risk for medical complications from being overweight or obese.
If the guidelines are widely adopted, it's expected some doctors may treat fewer people. for obesity.
The FDA is now banning the use of red dye number 3 in foods, drinks, and drugs. This after scientists link the dye to cancer in animals. Red dye number 3 is a synthetic color additive made from petroleum. It's used to give foods and drinks a bright red color. Manufacturers using it have until January of 2027 to reformulate their products for ingested drugs. That deadline is a year later, in January of 28. The requirements also apply to foods imported to the U.S. And still ahead, the Bucks help make some kids' wishes come true.
Plus, after years of delays, Real ID is finally on its way. We'll tell you what you need to know.
And enjoy the upcoming temperatures while you can. Very briefly, Alex will fill us in on another Arctic blast heading our way next week in his complete forecast.
You're watching News 3 Now at 6.
A new federal regulation is coming that could bring big changes to your airport experience.
That's right. Starting May 7th, all domestic travelers in the U.S. must have a state-issued ID card or driver's license that complies with the new standard known as Real ID. Now, they're designed to be more secure, harder to counterfeit. Chris Van Cleve has more on what it all means.
After years of delays, starting May 7th, if you want to get past the security checkpoint and onto a domestic flight, you will need an updated Real ID. It'll have a star like this in the corner. The TSA is urging people to get it now.
The closer you get to that deadline, the harder it's going to be to get your Real ID, either whether you want to get a passport or you want to get your license, because there'll be longer lines.
And that happened in 2020 before the deadline was postponed due to the pandemic. And still years later, many Americans are not ready. In 2023, DHS estimated Real ID compliance was growing by 0.5% a month, putting it at around 70% by the May deadline. In Iowa, that means about 2 in every 10 driver's license holders don't have the right ID, says the state DOT.
If you don't have that gold star, it means that you do not have a Real ID compliant credential, and you need to come in and do that.
Getting one means a trip to the DMV. Typically, you'll need a valid ID, passport or birth certificate, proof of your social security number and date of birth, plus 2 items proving state residency. In addition to airport checkpoints, you're going to need this star to get into federal government buildings where they ask you to show ID. You can also use a passport or active duty military ID. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Washington's Reagan National Airport.
And moving on, firefighters in northern Wisconsin are showing off their latest masterpiece, an ice sculpture in the form of a giant castle.
Now, the castle's on full display in downtown Eagle River up in Vilas County. The fire chief says this year's multi-tower design was inspired by a famous castle in Germany.
We formed the block while it's still in the lake. We cut down within 2 inches of the bottom, and then we hand cut the last 2 inches out of the lake, and we pull it out of the lake then with a conveyor belt and load it onto pickup trucks.
This is the first time since 2022 that the weather has cooperated enough for the sculpture to be built.
No problem if it were here in terms of melting. No risk at all of that. We can assure you Alex is back with a complete forecast.
Maybe just a wee bit for 2 days, but that wouldn't put a dent in that ice castle. Got a little light snow this evening, a big warm up Thursday and 40 by Friday. Then we plunge right back into alert day conditions, probably the coldest temperatures that we've experienced thus far this winter season. Few flurries may be starting to fly out across portions of Dane County as we see a little bit of blue from Madison and points off towards the north and towards the west as we track a quick clipper-like system bringing in a line of snow showers stretching from Camp Douglas all the way down to the Prairie du Chien area, Juneau and Adams counties along 90, Camp Douglas over to New Chester, just north and west of the Dells. We go southwest to Richland Center, down to Muscoda. We have some light snow likely making it to the ground, maybe even a little bit on the heavier side from Highland down to the Castle Rock area right along Highway 14 east of Fenimore. So we track using Future Track that snow this evening. Best chance for that snow is now through 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then it's off to the east by the time we get to midnight. It's quick. It will move through the Madison area probably 8, 9 o'clock and bringing a dusting, if that, from Madison and areas southwest. A little more to the northeast towards Beaver Dam, maybe a ½ inch to an inch. We've seen this multiple times, even with a little bit of light snow in that 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. time frame, that a dusting can still cause a couple of slick spots, so don't let your guard down this evening. Planning our evening, there's the light snow showing up here, 6 o'clock in the Madison area, if not over the course of the next 20-30 minutes, 8 o'clock, and then maybe even still a few flurries at 10, with temperatures right around 20, dipping into the teens tonight and then rising overnight as we bring that warmer air into southern Wisconsin. 21s to 22s across Dane County, across the rest of southern Wisconsin, upper teens, 19 in Mineral Point, 19 in Janesville. Otherwise, we're hovering right around that 20-degree mark. Wind chills right now. You add that wind, cut everything in half, and that's what it feels like. Feels like 7 in the Dells, 5 in Janesville, 12 right now in Boscoville, and it is getting breezy out there. Speaking of breezy conditions, while it will be sunny, it's going to be breezy and bitterly cold Sunday all the way through Tuesday, looking at wind chill values of -25 to -30. I promised you this is what it would look like. 10 a.m. Sunday morning, -20 in Madison, -25 in Camp Douglas, -16 in Janesville, and these are those wind chills. This is what you have to prepare for. The actual air temperature is nice on a thermometer, but it's the wind chills that you need to act for. Nearly 30 below zero across southern Wisconsin, wind chills Monday morning, and then we flash into Tuesday morning, -25 to -30 degree below zero wind chills. And this is the dangerous stuff that you need to prepare for those 3 days next week. That's that bitter cold stretch. At least it's short-lived, and temperatures will climb out of that bitter cold stretch by the end of the week with temperatures approaching 30. Beautiful day to get out around town today. I had the opportunity to visit Sun Prairies United Methodist Church. It was wonderful to speak about my journey to landing this role here at Channel 3, which I'm very humbly grateful for. The group had some good questions too today, so I just want to say thank you for having me out, folks, and thank you for that prayer shawl that I'm going to give to Grandma Harrington this weekend. And if you'd like me to come to your event and chat weather with you, just email me, aharrington@WISC-TV.com. Would love to meet you and chat about weather.
Alex, thank you for going out there as well. 4 kids undergoing some medical treatment are taking home some memories that'll last forever thanks to the Milwaukee Bucks and the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Yesterday, each child met with Bucks general manager John Horst, and he signed each of them to a 1-day contract with the Bucks. And then they got an opportunity to watch a shoot around before meeting the players and the coaches. And there they signed their jerseys, took pictures. Star point guard Damian Lillard right there. He even gave them all some brand new basketball shoes.
Yeah, it's a dream come true to be able to come out and do this, so I'm just glad I got to feel the experience.
And the team also hosted the kids and their families at Fiserv Forum for last night's game against the Sacramento Kings, which the Bucks would win 130 to 115.
And coming up in sports, Ball to the Hall. The exclusive club former Badger running back Monte Ball is joining. Find out next on News 3 Now. When you think of the Mount Rushmore of Wisconsin running backs, obviously Ron Dayne is up there, but Monte Ball is not far behind him. The former Badger running back rewrote the record books during his time in Madison, and now the 2-time consensus first-team All-American is headed to college football's Hall of Fame as a member of the class of 2025. He becomes the 13th Badger player to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Wisconsin women's hockey is starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. They're closing in on yet another WCHA regular season title, and the playoffs, well, they're right around the corner. The only issue is that they've got 5 series to play before it's time for the postseason. And as much as they want those playoffs to be here, the Badgers know right now it's time to finish strong.
We have 10 regular season games left, and the goal is to have 10 wins going into playoffs. I obviously am getting excited for playoff season, but can't skip out on these 10 games. They're just as important as any other games, and that's going to be a big mindset going into this weekend.
Last night wasn't as easy as it appeared to be going into the 20 minutes of basketball. At halftime, Wisconsin led by 17 points. When it was all said and done, Badgers beat the Buckeyes by 2, but as they say, a win's a win. And this one was win number 200 for Greg Gard, a milestone reached by only 3 other Badger men's basketball coaches. And in true Gard fashion, he thanked everyone who helped him along the way.
Not about me. My name goes with it, but I've had terrific players, the current ones, the ones that have been here for the last 9 years, terrific coaches with me. I got a phenomenal staff right now, support system. So there's just a lot of people that help put me in this position, and it's a lot of people that should go on that 200.
And just a reminder to check out this week's Wisconsin Huddle. Kamari McGee stopped by to talk all things Badger men's basketball. We talked fashion and roommates. Show airs on Friday at 6:30 right here on News 3 Now.
Give him some fashion tips?
He gave me some.
Okay,
actually.
I was wondering about that.
Lucky guy.
Who would be responsible? All right, let's go to Alex.
It's gonna warm up. I'm excited about this.
Briefly, I know, because you and I both
For an
do
hour.
walking and running. Basically,
I'll take
an
it.
hour, yeah. But we'll take it too. At least a day or two of warm weather. We're getting a little snow with a clipper system that will move through the area between now through, let's say, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at the latest. It's out of here fully by the time we get to midnight. A dusting, perhaps a ½ inch. Then we got to prepare for the time period, Sarah, in southern Wisconsin, where we're not going to be outside doing any walking or running, and that's Sunday through Tuesday, especially during the morning hours, with wind chills as cold as -25 to -30. But good news, I've said this a couple times, it's short-lived.
Oh, goodness.
Spring starts in a week.
Yes, I hope so.
Not really. Thanks for joining us for News 3 Now at 6.
We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock.